The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for being with us. And also, I just want to say, AWA was great this year, wasn't it? Did everybody have a good time at the conference? Yeah, okay. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for the intro. I'm Ethan, that's Amanda. We are going to pack as much as we can into 20 minutes. We'll leave 5 minutes for questions. Please, you can also ask questions as we go. So just raise your hand. We'd love to chat. So we're going to be informal about this. So we'll go to the next slide. So just a little quick background about who we are and what we're doing here and what our background is. Lightspeed PR is the PR agency of AWA. And this is our 5th year of so doing. This year we did it in partnership with our friends at Mark & Gold who are here. Hi there. And we've been operating, Amanda and I, for 11 years at Lightspeed PR. And we're a tech agency. We do a lot of work with startups and established companies, and we do a lot of work in the XR space. And here you see some of the clients. It's a pretty wide, diverse mix of verticals like military with Copen and education with Zspace and retail with Hexa and software platforms and all manner of things. And we've worked with a lot of global companies, and we've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't when you want to take a local company and get global PR for it. So that's what we want to talk to you about. I'll let Amanda go from here.
So this is actually a bit right out of the book. As Ethan said, we work with a lot of tech clients, and very often they will call us and say things like, my investors are telling me I need PR, but I don't know what it is. I don't know why I should care. Why should I bother? What do you do? So we really developed the book to answer those questions. And like Ethan said, we do work with a lot of international clients who specifically want to they want to break into the US market. So there's several sections of the book that get into that as well. But this is really the very building blocks of it. What is public relations? How it matters in XR? Technical difficulties. Go back. Global versus local PR, what that means and how we accomplish it. And then, of course, how to put it to work for you. That's basically what we're going to cover right now. So what is public relations? This is in a nutshell. It's creating the right kind of awareness through trustworthy advocates to drive action and achieve your business goals. And it's a little bit of a mouthful. I'll get into that more. The next slide will actually make it a little clearer because I can tell you what it isn't. Despite what my family thinks, it's not advertising. PR is not when you buy something and put it out there and decide what the message is, pay for it, and have everybody see exactly what you've crafted. It's also not social media where you've developed a network and you're talking directly to those people. Advertising is earned. So it's primarily through those trustworthy advocates I mentioned, mostly the media, but others as well, to get other people to tell your story. So it's a little bit more validated, a little more trustworthy when it's not you talking about you.
All right, so first, I just want to ask you all a question. Does anybody know who that guy is? You do? Yeah, probably. That's right. Okay. How many of you, how many others knew who that is? Okay, Sam knows. Yeah, a few others. So do you know what year this is from? Give me your best guess of what year that image is from.
15, 17.
I heard 17. Okay. 16 back there. Okay, it's 2015. This also was from 2015. So the headline, if you can't see it, from Edge Magazine is "Believe the Hype." And here we have the most embarrassing image, perhaps of all time, of Palmer leaping barefoot into the air with his, I think it was the Rift at that time. The surprising joy of virtual reality and why it's about to change the world. Do we all think that this has happened, that VR has changed the world in 2024? Well, in some ways it has. But it's only, the reason I'm talking about the year 2015 is it's only been 9 years since this burst on the stage. So here in the XR space, we're we're still pretty new. And I know 2015 wasn't the first year, but it's still pretty new in terms of mass awareness. This is when the general public started to hear about it. So what we're talking about with these two images is hype. And what Amanda and I deal with and work with all the time is companies who are interested in creating a lot of hype, and there's dangers in doing that. So this is the result of too much hype. You have Forbes. VR fails to translate to real-world results. New York Times. Why is it still so niche? And TechCrunch. AR's awkward phase will be long and painful. So this is something that many of you are going to be familiar with. This is the Gartner hype cycle. You probably have heard of this. So every new technology goes through the same cycle. So if you're in marketing, you need to be aware of this. First, you have the hype. That's that mountain at first at the top. And then you get into the trough of disillusionment, which those other articles were, when people are like, what happened? We're disappointed. It didn't work. Then you start going back up again, this slope of enlightenment, and that's where we are right now. And then you finally level out into a plateau of productivity. This is held true for everything from ebooks to the automobile. It's always the case. So you need to be aware of this because you don't want to be the perpetrator of overhype. Resist the temptation. So that's my first big advice to you is don't overhype. So what do you do instead of overhyping? Here's the better approach. You want to talk about realistic business objectives. So when you're marketing your company or your product or your platform or your offering or whatever you're selling, rather than talking about, we're going to change the world, we're going to transform this or we're going to transform that, we're going to disrupt this or disrupt that, talk about more realistic goals, and then you won't create the overhype that leads to disappointment. So always be thinking about business objectives. Those business objectives for your company might be any of these: driving your stock price up, getting investors, getting acquired, sales, or getting people to send you their resume, or maybe, repairing reputational issues. So these are business objectives. So when you work with a PR agency like ours, we're going to be focusing on this stuff and not the hype. So that's one of the big takeaways that I want you to keep in mind, is to be realistic and not hypey. Okay, so how do we do it? Amanda, why don't you get us started with these?
I especially like that you created a new word, hypey.
Yeah, that's right.
Put that in the next book.
That'll be in the dictionary.
So number one, establish credibility. Like I said earlier, it's not you talking about you. So the more people you get saying that you are everything that you claim to be, media are great, but then there's other sources, like, do you have a patent? Have you won awards? Is someone in your C-suite a notable expert? Do you have some kind of external credibility that will allow us to say to other sources, hey, these people are for real. They have what it takes to be taken seriously. That's number one. Two, near and dear to my heart, because I do all the messaging for our agency, is clear messaging. I can't tell you how many times we talk to a new client and we say, tell us what you do. And 20 minutes later, they're still talking. And we have to say, okay, let's distill that down. Let's get it to a very clear, crystallized message that other people will understand. People with a short attention span, like news media, we can capture them and explain what it is quickly and understandably, particularly focusing on what problem are you solving.
That last bit that Amanda just mentioned is one of the most important things for you to remember. I'll say it again in case you're like, what was that? Focus on what problem you are solving. Now, I've been here at the conference walking around and talking to people and saying, what do you do? And they get right into, well, we created this technology and here's how we did it. And I said, hold on. Before you tell me how you did it, tell me why you did it. That is what journalists want, and also, by the way, investors and others, but the first question people want answered is why. Okay, so I'm just repeating what Amanda just said because it's really important. Number three, remain active. We have clients that say, well, why don't you just do a campaign for a couple of months, then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back next year. That is not effective public relations. You need ongoing, reliable flow of news, of coverage, of exposure. Your audience doesn't want you to disappear and ghost and come back next year. And if you think you don't have news, you probably still do. You just need to figure out a clever way of describing what you're doing. Number 4, flood the zone. It is really important to get your news out into multiple different types of channels. So you might be TV or radio or newspapers or magazines or YouTube or podcasts or whatever it is. If you're only reaching one channel, you're not going to create action. So one of the rules that we have in marketing, those of us in marketing, we have the marketing rule of 7. That means you need to be exposed to a message 7 times before you take action. And if you think about it as an audience, if you read something once, okay, you're not going to immediately go buy it. Sometimes, but usually you won't. By the time you've seen it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, oh, this must be huge. Why do I keep on hearing about this? At that point, you start to investigate. So flood the zone. And finally, offer value. Here's what I mean by this. If you are working with a journalist, a reporter, an editor, a producer, you're not saying, tell your readers about why my product is so awesome. You're saying, let me give your readers some valuable intelligence, some advice, some tips, some guidance. So you're not just selling, but you're here to help. And this is an important lesson again. As marketers, as PR people, we're not here just to promote products, but to promote advice. That's what we call thought leadership. So those are the 5 ways to generate public perception and drive measurable action. Amanda, I'll let you do this one.
So a big question we get from our clients all the time is, and what you alluded to, is often they'll say, we don't have anything newsworthy, or how do we know if what we're doing is newsworthy, or how do we gauge if we can do PR, is anybody going to care? So we created a shorthand to make people a little bit more thinking more about how they can frame their story into something newsworthy. First of all, it has to be new. That's just the beginning of the word, and that's always going to be true. But if it fits into one of these 3 I buckets, more than one is great. Get all 3, that's great. But if you have at least one, we can probably get news for you. So innovation. You're all tech people. You understand what innovation certainly is: something new, invented, something that's never been seen before, something that's going to make a difference. Impact. Has your company changed the landscape in some way? This could be a new hire. This could be a particularly great year financially. This could be customer stories, something that demonstrates that your business is having an impact. And third, insight. This is another word for thought leadership. Can you do expert commentary? Do you have someone on your team who could be a commentator on the subject of something having to do in your industry? Can you write a byline article that might be a different perspective on something that's happening in the news, or happening that's something specific to your industry or the realm where you're working? Those types of things we can always get placed with the news. They're always interested in those types of things. Any one of those 3 I's, more than one is great, but typically that's what leads to news.
That's right. So remember, be creative about what your news is. It doesn't always have to be, well, we have a new version or a new product. Okay, let's talk about how to go global with your PR. I'm going to give you some specific advice here on how to specifically globalize your program. So number 1, we want to prioritize, we want to organize. I have clients that say to me, Ethan, I want to go global next month. Well, there's 280 countries in the world. That's a lot. So don't feel that you need to go global all at once. It's much more realistic to add one region, add another region, and slowly build up that way. Also, a lot of people have heard about the hub and spoke model, not just at the airport, but the way that we manage a global communications program. So what that means is wherever your headquarters is, if you have 10 different markets that you're pursuing, it doesn't mean you want to directly manage all 10 from headquarters. You want to have, for example, a Europe hub and maybe a North American hub and maybe an Asia hub. And then you're managing just those 3 hubs. And then those managers manage all the spokes. This is really important for PR to be more efficient. It's also really important to understand the cultural differences. This, of course, applies to everything that we do in life, but it's especially important when we talk about PR, when we talk about communications. I'll give you one example of this. This is a behavioral difference, and that is that Asians generally read the manual when they buy a product. And Americans, like myself, generally do not read the manual and expect everything to be intuitive and obvious. So that means that if you're doing a PR campaign and you're targeting Americans, you have to dumb it down and explain everything for them. So you got to take that into account. I've had a lot of clients make the mistake of not doing that. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the US market, because if you're here in Europe you want to reach the US market, I'm going to give you some insights about how to work with Americans. Number one, American journalists really are focused on news. Now, like Amanda was saying before, the news doesn't have to be a new product. It could be insights. But what's really important is a local angle. Now, Americans are the most provincial people in the world. Americans tend to be really fixated on America. And if something's happening in another country, they tend to be less interested. Sorry for that. But that's the truth. So it's important to have a local angle to get American editors, podcasters, media interested. A local angle could be a customer. It could be a partner. It could be a member, a new hire, a new office, a retailer, anything, but you want some kind of a local angle. Number two, social media is just not as impactful in Europe as it is in the US, but in the US, social media is really important. So you really want to be doubling down on TikToks and Instagrams and that kind of stuff. I also want to share with you, a lot of companies that I talk to based in Europe or in Asia are very surprised that PR in the US is more expensive than they anticipated. Why? Well, first of all, it's a big country. There's a lot of people. We also have a lot of audiences, a lot of fractured publications and outlets. So if you want to do a PR campaign, my team have to call 1,000 people. There's 1,000 editors and newspaper reporters, so it's just a lot. Of course, the ROI is also higher. And another thing that's surprising to a lot of people who haven't worked with the US market before, American journalists are not allowed to accept junkets. Junkets are paid trips. So you can't say, look, let me buy your flight to come visit us. American journalists typically are not allowed to accept that. They also can't pay for it themselves because they don't have the budget. So just be aware of the sort of limitations and constraints. It is better for you to go to them. It's going to be very hard for you to get journalists to fly anywhere. Next, I want to talk a little bit about pan-European PR. So if you're just expanding in Europe, the first thing is, and look, a lot of this might be quite obvious, but I'll say it anyway, Europe's not really a place. There is no Europe, right? There's 27 countries in Europe. So doing a European PR campaign is not going to be effective. You want to do a campaign in Austria or Spain or Italy or France or wherever you're doing it, and then expand that way. And it's very important, we have learned, and thank you, Christian, for mentioning this to me, that you need to really have things in their local language. You cannot rely on just English. The more you translate into local language for each country, the better your results are going to be. And even if they do speak English, it's going to be more effective in their own local language. And just like I was saying about American travel, it's difficult to travel even within Europe, even within their own country. The best practice is to go to them. Asia. If you're thinking about expanding into Asia, Asia's a whole different ballgame than you may have experienced in Europe or in North America. In Asia, pay to play is huge. You can buy results there in the way that you can't buy results in other countries. How many people here know what a KOL program is? KOL. Okay, that's what I thought. None. KOL is a key opinion leader program. How many people know what an influencer program is? Got a few. Okay, so the influencer program is where you're marketing to people with huge followings on Instagram and TikTok to get them to cover you. That's called a KOL. It's basically the same thing, but in Asia they call it a KOL, a key opinion leader programs. So just so you're aware of that term, if you're wondering what is that, that's what they do in Asia. These people are compensated. You are not going to get free exposure. And in Asia, once an article is placed, it's usually possible to look at it first before it runs. You, in the United States and typically in Europe, with rare exceptions, you will not be able to review an article before it runs. So any one of these slides could have been an hour, so I'm just like condensing it and giving you some highlights. Happy to chat more with you about some of this stuff. But that's just some quick overview here for you. Amanda, you want to talk about this stuff?
Yeah, we mentioned the booth, although the conference is done now. You might have seen us down on the show floor. We're also available for consultation if anyone wants to chat with us about anything. We're here. And you can also get a free copy of the book. It's on our website. It's also on Amazon. We have a few copies in the back, but it goes into more detail about a lot of these topics.
Yep. Yeah, there's... Could you explain the format here?
I wrote it in a little bit of an unusual format because we get these questions all day long. I said, you know what, I'm just going to write the questions that I get and I'm going to answer them. So it's very easy to navigate the book. You can just find the question you have. I wrote it like an advice column, if anyone's familiar with that from your newspaper. So it's as though someone's writing me and asking me these questions and then I'm answering it. It gives you a little bit more of humor. It's a quick read, but it's been helpful for us to explain to tech leaders exactly what it is we do.
Yeah, we're hearing some good feedback. We had somebody come by the booth, and she was like, "Thank you so much. This book was amazing." Right? I made the video.
I promise I didn't pay her.
Yeah, she was like thrilled. So we have 3 minutes. I do have 3 books here, so 3 of you can have one. But love to take some questions if you've got them.
Thanks. I just picked up the book yesterday. I found it on the site. It's a really cool topic. I would love to learn more. But, you know, with recent developments in AI, these days, a lot of people are kind of fake experts. And I think that's like, especially on LinkedIn, you know, you see a lot of people doing that kind of content marketing, talking about innovation and stuff and insights. And I was just curious, you know, how much is too much when you put stuff out there in a form of a content marketing? Because it's, you know... Where is the creativity in that sense? You know, like if I'm perceived as a fake expert, right? Even if that's not true, like, should I stop talking? Should I only prioritize things that I truly know from my experiential practice? Or how would you deal with fake experts, essentially?
You want to go ahead?
You.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for that really thoughtful question. It is a case-by-case basis, but I will say it is very important to be authentic. And when you are not authentic, it's clear. And if you're using AI to create kind of, you know, fake content, people intuitively will get that. So it's really important that when you're putting out content marketing, that it's genuine, that it's from your own experience. And also, even if it seems real and then they talk to you on the phone and you can't deliver on the stuff that you seem to be an expert in, that doesn't benefit you. Now you've oversold. Now what you've done, I was talking about overhype. You've overhyped yourself now. So be authentic and don't overwhelm. We recommend keeping content once a week at most. More than that is too much.
Right, thanks.
Welcome. Yeah, right there.
If you don't mind stepping in, we're a little bit short on time.
Okay.
Would you be so kind as to follow up directly with Ethan and Amanda on that? Okay.
Yeah,
so that
sure.
we can go all to wrap up the event.
Yeah.
And then perhaps a red wine after that? I don't know.
Yeah, come see us with questions. Thank
Just
you.
externalizing stuff. Thank you so much, Ethan and Amanda. Lovely to hear about you. So
Yeah, thanks.
a round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much. Cheers.
I got 3 books. I got 3 books for whoever wants them.